Hello and welcome to Campaign Chronicles on France 24, our regular countdown to the presidential election. And for that, I'm joined as always by our French politics affair editor, Mark Perlman. Good evening to you, Mark.
Good evening. And
Olivia Salazar-Winspear is also here. She'll have the reaction in the French press and on the blogs as well. Hello there, Olivia. Now, on Sunday, two huge open-air rallies took place here in Paris, pitting the two leading candidates against each other. Incumbent Nicolas Sarkozy addressed his supporters in the Place de la Concorde, while his socialist rival François Hollande spoke at the Château de Vincennes. And here's what happened.
Two open-air Sunday meetings. Current French President Nicolas Sarkozy against socialist presidential candidate François Hollande. A showdown in the run-up to the first round of the elections.
Do not be afraid. They won't win if you decide you want to win.
On the other side of Paris, the socialist hopeful had a warning, not only directed at Sarkozy, but also to his own supporters.
Don't be taken in by spin, nor be tempted by those eager to dole out their government posts before they've even won. It's up to the French people to give us responsibility for the country.
Both aimed their speeches at the average French person, but it was Sarkozy who put the emphasis on the French rather than the average.
I'm talking to the silent majority. You are the mouthpiece of those who never speak, of those who never ask for anything, those who are proud of France, proud of their culture, proud of their language, proud of their identity.
The socialists lead in the polls, but Hollande could suffer from a surge in popularity by far-left challenger Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
The left is diverse, but it will not be divided. This is what the right wants, and they will lose. It's the left that will come together.
One thing both sides could agree on: the vast numbers. Around 100,000 turned out to see the candidates speak.
All right, so Mark, one of the last opportunities for the candidates to sweep up a few more votes. But what were the central messages of each rally?
Well, the central message that, first of all, you're in Paris, at the heart of France. France is a very centralized country, and they wanted to show their strength. And so the words were not that important. It's the images, and especially because the campaign teams are the ones providing the messages to France 24 and other news channels. So they make sure they show lots of people, lots of enthusiasm, lots of flag waving and so on. And so this was important for them to show that they could gather a lot of people at a time when people are saying, well, we're not really interested in the campaign. Maybe we'll stay home next Sunday instead of going to vote. And so for the candidates, that was important. In terms of substance, there was not much. They rehashed their main proposals, their main slogans. Nicolas Sarkozy maybe more insistent because he knows that he's trailing François Hollande in the polls and calling desperately on all the French and calling on the French identity, culture, really on French nationalism to come out and help him. François Hollande was more in a kind of defensive mode, saying, okay, we need to make sure people go to vote, we need to make sure we're not divided, but clearly he feels that he's cruising, that he's in front, and so he can be more relaxed. Just a footnote, Nicolas...
Just making sure all his supporters do indeed come out.
Just as a footnote, they were supposed to speak more or less at the same time, but Nicolas Sarkozy dumped two speakers and went to speak ahead of François Hollande because he knew that the first one to speak would be taken live by television channels. Anything wins.
Ah, very clever. All right, now, Olivia, Nicolas Sarkozy also perhaps trying to appear more down to earth, more of a man of the people than he perhaps is.
Yes. The funny thing about this rally at Place de la Concorde in the middle of Paris, like you said, Nicolas Sarkozy was getting out there in among the crowds and among the people, shaking hands. And there was a funny incident when he took off his watch at one moment. Now, this website here gives you a frame-by-frame account of what's going on. We've got Nicolas Sarkozy shaking hands with people here, you can see. And as it progresses, somebody touches his watch. He gets a little bit nervous, panics, takes it off and puts it in his pocket. Now, he's obviously worried about somebody pickpocketing him or taking his watch, which he's right to be because Paris is a very dangerous place. But as we know, Sarkozy is also a lover of luxury watches.
It's a nice watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's known as a Rolex man, actually. And that gained him the bling-bling president reputation at the beginning of his campaign when he was first elected, which was perhaps not as tasteless as it might seem now because it was pre-recession. Now, a second article in L'Atlantico is saying that actually this is not a Rolex that he was wearing. This is a watch specialist who was brought in to write this article. It was an even more expensive watch this time, Patek Philippe, which is a Swiss watch that can go, the model he was wearing, can be worth between 30 and 50,000 euros. So not a watch of the people, but apparently a gift from his wife.
Oh, okay, well. There you go. All right, now, Mark, expensive watches and open-air rallies, what is this doing to the polls right now?
Not much. That's the main worry for Nicolas Sarkozy. The polls are not moving at all for him, and they haven't been for the past week or so. And we're going to see the latest one from IFOP, which shows that in round one, which is next Sunday, the socialist François Hollande is ahead, 28%. Nicolas Sarkozy arrives in second at 27%. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen comes third, 15.5%, ahead of far-left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon, 14.5%. And in round two, which will be on May 6th, François Hollande still has a 10-point lead, even more, on Nicolas Sarkozy, and that's really a worry. That's really a worry. It's a pretty big spread, and it's been there consistently. And so Nicolas Sarkozy is doing all he can in the last week of campaigning, but it's unlikely people will change their votes. They pretty know already what they will vote. Maybe the first round they will choose smaller candidates, but in round two, pretty much of those polls say we know who we're going to vote, if we're going to stay home or support one of the two alleged top vote getters, Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande. So as it stands, Nicolas Sarkozy could be spending his last days at the Élysée. You never can say never, but that's a safe bet for now.
OK, now, of all the candidates running, one claims to have the edge on the economy. Jacques Chirac likes to remind people that he predicted the financial crisis before any other French politician. Well, now he wants radical changes to take place in banking. Well, he also speaks English and agreed to speak to our reporter Clovis Casali about his candidacy, but also about more personal matters, such as the impact of this campaign on his private life.
We're in the heart of the capital with Jacques Chirac. He's definitely not the most well-known of all the candidates, but he is running in this presidential election. Jacques Chirac, thanks for being with us. One question. We are only a few streets away from the Élysée presidential palace, and all the international banks are here in the 8th arrondissement of Paris, and you want to reform these banks. How?
My candidacy targets the financial oligarchy, and I think that we can get rid of them once and forever. And I know that there are people in Great Britain and people in the United States that do support that. And this is my fight. And we need, for that, a new Glass-Steagall to separate the banks that speculate from the banks that deal with deposits and credit. That's the first measure. And we need the states to recover the control of their debts, which means public credit.
You ran in 1995 and you only obtained 0.28% of the votes. That's not much. What's the point in running? Why don't you just join a big party to try to influence them and give them better ideas?
Big parties that are more or less financially controlled by interests in the oligarchy don't like very much what I have to say. So I launched my own candidacy to educate the population on the reasons of the crisis and how to get free from the handcuffs.
And what does your family and friends think of this candidacy? Do they ask you sometimes why you're running? What's the point? Seeing how difficult a campaign is for any candidate, really.
They have a kick at it. They say, this guy is courageous, he's on the field, and he does what I would like to do, but I don't dare to. And that's all.
Just to add, Jacques Chirac looks very nice and charming, but he has been inspired by conspiracy theorist and Nazi sympathizer Lyndon LaRouche from the United States, so there is some controversy around him.
And he's not doing too well in the polls this time around,
either,
is he?
doing.
Less than 1%.
Yes.
All right. Now, another candidate, Philippe Poutou, gave a newsreader course to stumble on TF1 earlier this week, didn't she?
Yes, on Sunday night, Philippe Poutou, I'll just show you him there. He was being interviewed on TF1, which is France's largest private major television channel, and he started talking about his campaign, and a large theme for him is the inequalities between the rich and the poor in France, and he really laid in at big CEOs. He said he was disgusted at the kind of enormous salaries that large company directors enjoyed in France, And the man he decided to quote was Martin Bouygues, who is a telecoms giant here in France. He owns, among many other things, the telecommunications company Bouygues Telecom, which is a mobile phone company. And he said that by having a multi-billion euro salary, this man was completely unacceptable as a French figure. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, there's a certain determination to flag up cases of extreme poverty and, of course, huge fortunes too. For example, there's someone that you know very well, that's Martin Bouygues, the director of the channel. A 2.5 billion euro personal fortune, that's inadmissible. You'd need to work for 200,000 years on minimum wage to earn that kind of money. That's the discrepancy that we have in our society.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and Martin Bouygues is actually the owner of TF1 channel, so that's why, of course, the interviewers were so uncomfortable when he laid into what is essentially their boss.
Bit of an uncomfortable silence there. All right, then.
Pretty gutsy, I must say.
Pretty gutsy indeed. All right, Mark Perelman and Olivia Salazar-Winspear, thanks very much indeed. Thanks to you for watching. Remember, you can follow the entire French presidential campaign on our website. Just 6 days to go. Remember, you can participate in our polls and see what hot topics are coming out of the social networks. Stay tuned, more headlines coming up.